Let's get into this first episode. Here's your first speaker, Mr. Bryan "Lubu" Roberts.
Good evening. The name of my topic is You Suck Forever. Thoughts on Improv Nihilism. Allow me, if you will, to start with a confession. I was asked to do one of these talks, and I agreed to it without really thinking about what I actually had to say about improv. I don't coach often, and I've never taught an improv class in my life. It occurred to me, thinking about this, that I may not actually believe in improv at all. I've spent 10 years watching other people do improv and talk about improv and perform and speak with such a passion about it as I just politely nod my head and say, yeah, cool, man, oh, that's so interesting, my friend. Not that I'm degrading what you love, not at all. It makes me happy to see someone slosh around in a wading pool of positivity. But I looked at things differently. I think I look at improv the way David Mamet looked at acting. Mamet will reduce acting to simply the actions of the actor. There's no work before or after the performance. You get up in front of people, you remain truthful to yourself, and you go home. If you're lucky, you've sliced off a bit of your personality and offered it to the audience like pizza. Did I then actually believe in improv? Do I really give a shit? So I spent some time looking at the many nihilistic opinions I had about improv to see how I really felt. I actually wanted to refer to the way I felt as improv atheism, but I don't think that really captures it. Not just thinking something negative, taking it at face value and moving on. The following is a collection of these random meanderings into my brain. Number 1, you suck. I am perpetually under the impression that I suck at improv. You might notice this if you've ever told me I did a good show. I do what I can to smile at you and thank you for coming, but generally I think that you're just being nice and trying to feed my ego for reasons that I can't possibly fathom. The only thing that brings me solace in times like these is that you also suck. I mean, you suck. I know you totally thought you crushed it, but you sucked. Everyone sucks, though, so you shouldn't feel bad either. Isn't that kind of the point of improv anyways? To suck? We tell each other that failure is awesome and that we beat ourselves up after shows that didn't go well because so-and-so missed your offer, and then all of a sudden you were in space and you slept with an alien. My God, how could you have sucked so bad? Frankly, it brings me great joy to watch people suck. The only thing that turns me off is when you suck, and then you realize that you were sucking, and you get that dead look in your eyes, like your dreams are all dying and you'll never be funny again. What is wrong with you, my friend? Just by sucking, you're being funny. Right now. You might as well enjoy how much you suck. Every troupe on earth is going to suck. A lot. There are no exceptions. But what separates good troupes from great troupes is how much you enjoy yourself on stage, regardless of how badly you will suck. And you will suck. You will suck forever. Number 2, classes are a scam. This is probably more for people at a certain point in their improv education, and I think this is one of those things that make budding improvisers leave improv before they have fully blossomed. Either way, I want you to think about this now. You pay hundreds of dollars to take classes, and in these classes you learn rules. Rules to an art form that you thought to be devoid of rules before you even set foot in the class. And on top of that, you watch shows where these rules are constantly being broken. And you think to yourself, well, I saw those guys ask each other questions, but you're giving me notes about asking questions. This is a fucking scam. I'm out. It's not that you're asking questions. It's that you're a fucking rook. And when fucking rooks get asked questions, they try to come up with the funniest answer they can. Where'd the tennis balls go? Oh, they went to Mars, man. With a talking lion named Junganga. Ha ha, hilarious. You were told that questions hold up the scene, but they only hold up the scene if you are unwilling to simply answer the question in front of you. You could have just said the tennis balls were in the garage. No, it's not funny, but it gets you to the garage, where maybe you find out your daughter is banging a tennis pro. On the other side of the coin, you might be such a rook that all of your dialogue is questions, which prevents you from adding anything to the scene yourself. Because God forbid you actually sacrifice some dignity by taking a risk. And that's why the rules are there. Because you need to get used to sucking. And maybe that's at the core of why people walk away from improv. Like Cthulhu, they saw the true extent of their sucking and were nearly driven mad. So maybe classes aren't the scam. Maybe you're the scam. Maybe your mother is the scam. By which I mean, she scammed you all your life by telling you that you didn't suck. Number 3, warm-ups are stupid. I'll say this publicly because I've said this in private conversation for years. I don't think warm-ups do that much for me. I've gone on stage cold and done the same kind of shows that I would have done warm. However, I feel that the day I have is going to be reflected on stage, and standing in a circle snapping in unison with other people isn't going to change my general mood. If I have baggage, I bring it on stage. If I want to murder someone from earlier in the day, I will try to play a murderer. And if I feel guilty about not walking my dog, I will play a neglectful parent. And if I got laid, I'd play a guy who got laid by 3 women at once. But warm-ups aren't about me. Warm-ups are about me. The universal me, the group me. I'm only one part of me. And when I get on stage, I need to be able to work as a complete unit. So I have to form a connection with other people who may be worried about things like being judged or feeling shame. Separate me from the group me, and it's a totally different situation. I have no shame. My parents have seen me do things that are probably illegal. And not drugs illegal, but like sex illegal. They saw me suck a blow pop from between the toes of a woman who was showing the audience her vagina. I'm pretty sure the hideout has never been zoned for that kind of thing. Maybe the problem isn't with other people who need warm-ups. Maybe the problem is that I, the guy who doesn't need warm-ups, has no self-respect. So warm-ups aren't about me. But I promise you that if we are doing improv together, I will do any goddamn warm-up you want to do. Firstly, because I want you to think that I'm normal. But more importantly, I want you to trust me on stage. We're going to suck, but we're going to suck together. Number 4, there's only one way to improvise, and every other way is a waste of time. I remember joining Giggle Pants in 2004 and doing comedy sports and thinking that it was the be-all, end-all. Oh man, this is the best. I can give the audience exactly what they want in the form of puns and bits based off all the current movies and music. They love it because they recognize it. And I love it because it's so damn easy to do. It's fish in a barrel. All this other improv is artsy-fartsy, pretentious theater guys who care more about making you cry than making you laugh. These shows are supposed to be a forgetting place. Doing narrative shows in 2006. This is the best. Shows that just make people laugh, but also they feel the full spectrum of human emotion. It's the kind of stuff that stays with you after you leave the theater. All this other improv is cheap comedy bits. Those other guys can dance like monkeys for all the bananas they want, but I'm going to stay true to my art. Doing Chicago style in 2010. I'm funny as fuck. And it's not like before where I just said things like, my wife, and people laughed. These are deep belly laughs that come from the truth of my character. And not only that, but I don't have to try and force emotional content like giving my character cancer or a dead wife. I'm taking risks with myself and they're paying off. Fuck those cheap laugh bitches and fuck those pretentious assholes. I wasn't even fucking alive before now. The boy has become the man. And now in 2015, I realize that I'm a flaky, flighty son of a bitch. My past selves were all right, but also, they were all wrong. This is the dilemma that has surely plagued many practitioners of improv. Minnesota improviser Joe Bernard will tell you that there are no schools of improv, that there's only one school of you, which I like to imagine is a giant globule of improv knowledge from which you can extract what you need. And maybe, using various combinations of things you've learned, you can discover something new. People may tell you that there's nothing new to learn, but here's what I think. I'm going to use a metaphor that I saw in the early 90s movie, The Pistol. This movie was about basketball, but I think it applies just as well to improv. You see this circle? The size of the circle represents everything known about improv. But the size of the ball represents everything about improv that hasn't even been discovered yet. This dot represents what we know. Combined! I look back over these thoughts that I have and I realize that, of course, I'm not actually nihilistic about improv. But I wonder how many easily people can fall into the trap of feeling this way from time to time. I mean, if you really think about it, we deal in nothingness. This is the medium we have chosen. We flirt constantly with the void. I would like to think it is perfectly natural to feel this way from time to time, but there is something there. Of course there is. We aren't here to be famous. We aren't here for money. Sometimes we aren't even here because it's fun. We're here because we can find nothing else worth our time. This is a thing so amazing that we have chosen to devote ourselves to it, even when the chance of material gain is next to nothing. Because there is something amazing in the doing, isn't there? There's nothing here when we arrive, yet through imagination and sheer force of will, we create something before we leave, and if we believe in it enough, we can make other people see it too. You can all do it. You're all capable of it, and yet you sit here frittering about how much you suck. I'd like to close with an anecdote from the Zen canon. In case you're curious, I got this anecdote from a Grand Theft Auto Vice City walkthrough, which teaches you specifically how to beat the game's ambulance challenge. Possibly the greatest game walkthrough I've ever read. Talk to me about it after the show if you'd like to read it yourself. Whenever anyone asked him about Zen, the great master Gute would quietly raise one finger into the air. A boy in the village began to imitate this behavior. Whenever he heard people talking about Gute's teachings, he would interrupt the discussion and raise his finger. Gute heard about the boy's mischief. When he saw him in the street, he seized him and cut off his finger. The boy cried and began to run off, but Gute called out to him. When the boy turned to look, Gute raised his finger in the air. At that moment, the boy became enlightened. Thank you.
Mr. Bryan Roberts.